Zara Khan was breathing hard, her chest rising and falling as she hid behind a thick black rock. Her face was bloody, one arm shaking from pain. The alien jungle around her was alive. It wasn't just trees and plants. It was something else, something hunting her. She had been part of a special Earth rescue mission. Her team had landed on planet Kavar 7 just 2 days ago. They came to save the survivors of a lost science crew, but the mission went wrong fast. Something attacked their ship. Sharp, fast, and invisible. 3 men were gone in the first 10 seconds. Screams filled the air. The captain shouted orders. And then, they left her. She remembered the moment clearly. Her captain looked at her bleeding leg, saw the approaching threat, and closed the ship door. He didn't say a word. He just left her behind. Now she was alone. The jungle was glowing slightly, full of red and blue lights from the strange plants. The air was heavy. Thick fog moved across the ground like a living snake. Sounds came from every side. Clicks, growls, and whispers that didn't sound natural. Zara knew she wasn't safe. She hadn't been safe since the moment they landed. She checked her weapon. Only one bullet left. One single shot. Her comms device was broken. No signal. No rescue. No way to call home. Her only plan was to survive the night. But that was already too much to ask. A low growl came from the trees. Zara froze. She had learned already. Movement attracted them. The alien predators. She hadn't seen one clearly yet, but she saw what they did. One of her team members was taken right in front of her. A shadow moved fast. There was a loud crack. And then, just bones. She closed her eyes and held her breath. Silence. Then something heavy stepped on a branch nearby. She raised her gun slowly. One shot. That's all. Her finger was ready, but her eyes saw nothing. Just trees. Fog. Darkness. She whispered to herself, "Come on, Zara. Think." She remembered the training. She remembered her father's words. When they hunt, don't act like prey. Be the one who bites back. Zara looked around and found a tree with wide roots. She crawled toward it slowly, her body aching with every move. Behind the tree, she found a hollow space. Small, tight, but good enough to hide for now. She slid inside, pulled a few leaves over the hole, and stayed still. More footsteps, slow, heavy. 1, 2, then silence again. She didn't breathe. Something sniffed the air. She felt it. A sharp, long claw touched the ground right next to her face. It was long and black, with green liquid dripping from the tip. Zara didn't move an inch. The claw scratched the dirt slowly. Then it stopped. Suddenly, a loud sound came from the trees behind. Another creature. A distraction. The claw moved away. She waited. 10 seconds. 20. 1 minute. Then she crawled out, slow and silent. She had to move. Fast. She needed shelter, weapons, food, anything. She followed a small path, keeping her body low. She saw strange marks on the trees, symbols scratched deep into the bark. They weren't random. They looked like warnings. She didn't care. She kept walking. After some time, she reached a clearing. In the middle was a piece of broken metal, not from her ship. This was something else. She walked closer and saw alien tech. A small pod crashed into the dirt. She opened it and gasped. Inside was a weapon. Long and sharp, glowing red. It was not human-made. It felt warm in her hands. There were also strange bones inside the pod. Not human, not animal. Something else, something older. Suddenly, the red weapon pulsed. A light shot out and hit her chest. She screamed. It felt like fire. Then it was gone. She looked down. A symbol had appeared on her skin. A mark, glowing faintly. It was the same symbol she saw on the trees. She didn't know what it meant, but she knew it changed something. Zara backed away from the pod. That's when she heard a voice. Not in her ears, in her mind. Marked. Chosen. Prey becomes queen. She dropped the weapon in shock. Her hands were shaking. Something was happening to her. Something big. Before she could think, a loud roar came from the jungle behind her. The ground shook. Leaves flew into the air. She turned. An alien predator stood in front of her, 8 feet tall, with armor made of bone and metal. Its eyes glowed green. It opened its mouth and roared again, but it didn't attack. It looked at her chest, the glowing mark. Then it took a step back and knelt. Zara's heart was pounding. She didn't understand. Why was it kneeling? Was it respecting her? Then, from the trees, 3 more predators stepped out, and they weren't kneeling. They were charging. Zara picked up the alien weapon and ran. She didn't know where, and she didn't know why she was marked. But now she wasn't just prey. She was something more, and the hunt had only just begun. Zara ran through the alien jungle, pushing past sharp branches and glowing plants. Her body was weak, her legs burning, but she didn't stop. The alien weapon in her hand pulsed with a low hum. Behind her, the 3 predators chased her like shadows, fast and deadly. The fog around the jungle made it hard to see. The ground was slippery. She stumbled once, fell, and rolled into a muddy hole. The world was quiet for a moment, just the sound of her breathing and the weapon's soft vibration. She stayed low. The alien creatures were close. She could hear their breathing now, loud and heavy. One of them stepped near the edge of the hole. Zara held the weapon tight. She had no idea how to use it, but she was ready to swing if she had to. Then the predator paused. It looked around, its head tilting like it was sniffing the air again. It didn't see her. Suddenly, a loud screech came from deeper in the jungle. Something else was out there. The predator turned and ran toward the sound. The other 2 followed. Zara stayed frozen for a full minute before moving. When she finally stood up, her clothes were covered in dirt and blood, but she was alive. She kept walking, slower this time, more careful. The jungle wasn't normal. It kept changing. Trees moved slightly, not by wind, but like they were breathing. Some plants opened and closed as if watching her. She touched nothing. Every step could mean danger. As she moved deeper, she found a small stream of water. She drank quickly, then cleaned the cuts on her leg. She sat against a tree and looked at the glowing mark on her chest. It was still there, still bright. It didn't hurt anymore, but it made her feel strange, different. She remembered the voice in her mind. Marked. Chosen. Prey becomes queen. What did it mean? Why her? Her thoughts were broken by a noise. Soft clicking, like claws on metal. She raised the weapon, her heart beating fast. But it wasn't a predator this time. It was a small robot. Floating. Damage. Maybe from the crashed alien pod she saw earlier. It hovered near her, then stopped. A light scanned her face. Zara stood still. The robot made a strange sound, then projected a hologram in front of her. A large, strong alien with armor appeared. His voice echoed through the air in a deep, strange language, but the robot translated it. You are marked by the ancient sign. The Hunter's Code accepts you. If you survive, the throne may choose you. Zara didn't move. The hologram faded. The robot dropped to the ground, dead. She looked at the glowing mark again. It wasn't a mistake. The jungle, the predators, the weapon, it was all connected. They weren't just monsters. They were part of something bigger. The system. A code. A hunt with rules. And now she was inside that system. She kept moving until she reached a small cliff. From the top, she saw a wide open field. Bones scattered everywhere. Skulls of different shapes and sizes. It was a hunting ground, a place where the predators brought their prey. In the middle of the field stood a tall stone with carvings, symbols like the ones on her chest. She walked toward it carefully. As she got closer, she noticed something strange. Her weapon began to glow brighter. The stone responded to her presence. She touched the surface, and suddenly, images filled her mind. She saw the past, fights between great alien warriors, a queen standing over kneeling hunters, a throne made of bone and gold. And then, silence. The queen gone, a prophecy written in the stars. A fighter from the stars shall rise, one who survives the hunt, one who wears the mark. Zara fell back, gasping. The vision ended. So that was it. She wasn't just fighting to survive. She was being tested, watched, judged. But why? She didn't want to be a queen. She just wanted to go home. Suddenly, a sound came from the side of the field. Trees shook. A tall shadow stepped out. A predator, but not like the others. This one wore a red cloak. Its face was scared. It carried a long staff, not a weapon. It didn't attack. It looked at Zara, then spoke in a slow, rough voice. You survive. You learn. Maybe you lead. Zara stared at him. He nodded once, then turned and walked into the jungle. She stood there, shaking. Nothing made sense anymore. But one thing was clear. She couldn't run anymore. She had to fight. If this was a game, she was going to win it. Not just survive. She would take it all. Zara's eyes never left the spot where the scared predator had disappeared into the jungle. His words echoed in her mind. You survive. You learn. Maybe you lead. She didn't understand what he meant. Lead? Lead who? Lead what? But one thing was clear. The jungle was not a place for the weak. If she was going to survive, she needed to learn fast. She turned away from the stone, the markings on it still glowing faintly in the dark. She didn't know where to go, but her feet moved on their own, drawn by the need to find shelter. The jungle felt alive, like it was watching her. She wasn't sure if it was just the fear or if something truly was following her. As she walked, her thoughts raced. She had learned one thing already. The predators respected strength. They didn't care about her past. They didn't care that she was human. All they cared about was whether she could fight. Could she survive their trials? Could she take the throne? Her thoughts were interrupted by a loud crash behind her. She turned quickly, raising the glowing weapon in her hand, ready to defend herself. But when she saw what made the noise, she lowered it slowly. A creature was stumbling toward her, half of its body burned, its eyes wide with fear. It was one of the alien species from the jungle, a creature she had seen during the battle. A giant, strong thing with scales and claws. But this one wasn't attacking. It was running. Behind it came another predator. This one was faster. Its eyes glowed bright green, its body sleek and covered in armor. It was part of the same pack, and it was hunting. Zara's heart raced. The creature in front of her wasn't the prey anymore. It was the enemy. She had no time to think. She raised the weapon and fired. The shot was fast, precise. The predator's head exploded in a burst of red. The creature in front of her stopped. It looked at her, its eyes wide with confusion. Zara didn't hesitate. She grabbed its arm and dragged it away from the fallen predator's body. It was strong, but it was injured, and it wasn't attacking. She didn't trust it, but she didn't have a choice. She needed information. She needed to learn more about the jungle and its rules. Why were you running? She asked, her voice cold. The creature didn't answer at first. It just blinked and stared at her. Then, slowly, it spoke in a broken language, a language Zara didn't understand. But she could make out a few words. The meaning was clear. They hunt, they take, they kill. Zara frowned. It wasn't much, but it was a clue. This creature wasn't just part of the hunt. It was a victim too. And now, it seemed, she was part of that game. Before she could ask more questions, a sound came from behind them. More predators were coming. Their footsteps were heavy and fast. The creature beside her pulled away, scrambling to get up. It didn't wait for Zara. It was scared. Zara didn't follow. Instead, she moved toward the rocks, hiding in the shadows. She needed to think. She needed to plan. From her hiding spot, she watched the predators pass by. There were 5 of them, walking in a tight formation, their weapons glowing in the dark. They didn't see her. She didn't make a sound. As the last predator walked past, Zara made her move. She sprinted toward a higher ground, climbing up the side of a cliff where she could see the predator's camp. It was hidden behind thick trees and tall grass, a camp of warriors, with fires burning brightly in the distance. The camp looked like something from ancient times. Thrones made of bone, weapons and armor piled up. This was where they lived. This was where the strongest stayed. But Zara knew it wasn't just a place to rest. It was also a place where they judge. And she was about to be judged. Zara stayed hidden in the trees, watching the predators below. She saw the scared one from earlier walk into the camp. He was surrounded by others, but he held his head high. He was different. He wasn't afraid. Zara watched him closely, trying to understand. Suddenly, the camp became tense. One of the predators shouted something, and everyone gathered around. The scared one stood tall, stepping forward. Zara couldn't hear their words, but she could tell this was important. Something was happening. One of the predators stepped forward, taller than the rest. Its body was covered in a thick metal armor that reflected the firelight. It pointed directly at the scared one, and then to the throne. The rest of the predators moved aside. It was a challenge. Zara's heart pounded. She understood now. This was not just a hunt. This was a fight for the throne. The strongest would win. The strongest would rule. The scared predator looked at the throne, then at the challenger's weapon. There was a moment of silence. No one moved. Then, the challenge began. It was brutal. Fast. They clashed in a flurry of blades and claws, each strike harder than the last. Zara could feel the power of the fight from where she stood. These were not just predators. They were warriors. In the end, the scared one fell to his knees. The challenger raised its weapon high. It was over. Zara watched as the victorious predator walked to the throne and placed its weapon beside it. The camp erupted in cheers, but Zara didn't cheer. She didn't feel joy. She felt something else. Power. She was here. She was part of this. And maybe, just maybe, she could take that throne. Zara stood frozen in the shadows, watching the predator claim the throne. The air around her felt heavy, thick with tension. The challenge was over, but Zara's mind was racing. The throne wasn't just a seat. It was a symbol of power, of leadership, and she now knew that power was up for grabs. Her chest tightened as she watched the victorious predator sit, its sharp eyes scanning the crowd of kneeling warriors. Zara's heart pounded. She had survived this long, but if she wanted to truly take control, she had to be more than a survivor. She had to fight, not just for her life, but for the right to lead. She couldn't let this moment pass. The hunt was still on, and Zara had a new goal now, not just to escape, but to take the throne herself. She moved back, silently slipping into the dense jungle. The predators were distracted, still celebrating their victory, unaware of her presence. But Zara wasn't ready to fight them yet. She needed to prepare. As she walked through the jungle, the weight of the weapon in her hand seemed to pull her forward, urging her to move faster. Her mind raced with plans. She needed to understand the rules of this jungle. She needed to know how these creatures thought, how they fought. She reached a small cave near the base of the cliffs where the predators had their camp. It was hidden by thick vines and overgrown plants, the entrance small, but enough for her to squeeze through. Inside, it was cool, quiet. She sat on the rocky floor, trying to catch her breath, her mind still spinning. The glowing mark on her chest was still there, pulsing faintly with every beat of her heart. She placed her hand over it, as if trying to understand it, but there was no answer. Just the cold weight of the strange power it gave her. It wasn't just a mark. It was something that connected her to this world, to their world. She was no longer just a human. She was part of something bigger. Her thoughts were interrupted by a rustle outside the cave. Her hand instinctively reached for her weapon. She crept toward the entrance, peering out into the jungle. It was the scared predator from before, the one who had lost the challenge. Zara watched as he moved silently, his eyes scanning the area, clearly on the lookout for something or someone. He was not part of the victory celebration. He was alone, and that told Zara everything. He wasn't done. Zara's hand tightened around the weapon. The scared predator had been powerful. He had come close to winning the throne, and now he was alone, hiding. This was her chance. This could be the beginning of her plan. She waited for him to get closer before stepping out from the cave, her footfall soft on the jungle floor. She didn't speak. She didn't want to give away her position. The predator stopped as if he sensed her presence, his head snapping toward her. For a moment, neither moved. The jungle seemed to hold its breath. Then, the scared predator spoke, his voice low and rough. "You are not like them. You are different." Zara didn't respond. She didn't need to. His words didn't scare her anymore. She was different, yes, and that was exactly what she needed. The predator stepped closer, his hand resting on the hilt of his weapon. But he didn't attack. He studied her, his eyes narrowing, like he was sizing her up. Finally, he spoke again, his voice barely above a whisper. "You want the throne." Zara didn't hesitate. "I do." He nodded slowly, as if considering her words. The air around them was thick with tension, but it wasn't the kind of tension that came from fear. It was the kind that came from understanding. Both of them knew the jungle's laws. Only the strong could survive. And the strongest of them all would sit on the throne. "I will teach you," the scared predator said. His voice was quiet, but the weight of it was enough to make Zora's heart race. "But you must understand this. The throne doesn't just belong to the strongest. It belongs to the one who rules." He turned and began walking deeper into the jungle. Zara followed him, the sound of their steps muffled by the thick ground cover. She didn't know where they were going, but she trusted that he would show her what she needed to know. After a while, they arrived at a large clearing, different from the one Zara had seen before. This one was silent. No sounds of wildlife. No predators. Just a wide open space with a stone platform in the center. The platform was covered in blood, and the air around it was thick with the scent of decay. "This is where the true tests begin," the scared predator said. He turned to face her. "You have survived the first steps. But the throne requires more than survival. It requires control, leadership, strength of mind." Zara nodded. She understood. She had been marked, chosen to take part in this strange battle. But now it was time to prove herself. The scared predator walked to the platform and raised his hands. He made a series of strange gestures, and Zara watched as the stone beneath his feet began to glow. Symbols appeared on the surface, flashing like stars. They were the same symbols she had seen before, the ones on the trees and on her chest. "This is the first trial," the predator said. "Only those who truly understand the mark can complete it." Zara stepped forward, her heart pounding. She reached for the stone, her fingers brushing the symbols. The moment her hand touched the surface, the jungle around her seemed to shift. The ground trembled. The air crackled with energy. Zara felt the power surge through her. She could see it now, the path to the throne. And it was more than just about strength. It was about control. It was about fighting for what was hers. The stone beneath Zora's fingers pulsed with power. Her heart raced as the jungle trembled around her. The symbols on the platform glowed brighter, lighting up the entire clearing. For a moment, it felt as if the world was holding its breath. The air was thick with energy, as if the very land itself was waiting for her to make a move. The scared predator stood back, watching her closely. He didn't speak. He didn't need to. Zara could feel his eyes on her, studying her every move. She had no choice now. This was it, the moment to prove she was worthy of the throne. She closed her eyes and focused on the power flowing through her. The glowing mark on her chest felt like it was alive, beating in time with her heart. Zara took a deep breath, drawing strength from the jungle itself. She wasn't just a human anymore. She had something more. The symbols on the stone began to shift, forming a new pattern. A path. A series of steps that led deeper into the jungle. Zara could see it clearly now. The path was hers to follow. But she wasn't alone. From the trees, a low growl echoed through the clearing. Zara opened her eyes just in time to see the shadows moving toward her. Predators. More of them. They were coming to challenge her. The scared predator stepped back, his hand resting on his weapon. He didn't interfere. This was Zora's fight. The first predator lunged at her, fast and silent, its claws extended. Zara raised the glowing weapon in her hand and swung. The weapon crackled with energy, and with a loud crack, the predator was thrown back, its body crashing into a tree. It didn't move again. Zora didn't have time to think. Another predator came at her from the side, this one larger and stronger, its teeth sharp like knives. She rolled to the ground just as its jaws snapped shut where her head had been moments before. She sprang back to her feet, twisting the weapon in her hand. The predator lunged again, but this time, Zora was ready. With a quick strike, she jabbed the weapon into its chest. The predator howled in pain, stumbling back before collapsing to the ground. Zora stood over it, breathing hard. 2 down, but there were more. The jungle wasn't going to make it easy. A third predator appeared, this one even faster than the others. Zara didn't have time to react. The predator grabbed her, its claws sinking into her shoulder. Pain shot through her, but she didn't scream. She gritted her teeth and pushed through it. With a sharp twist, she freed herself from its grip and kicked it back. The predator staggered, but before it could recover, Zara swung the weapon again, striking it across the face. The predator fell, its body twitching as it went still. Zara's heart pounded in her chest, but she wasn't done yet. She could feel the energy of the jungle, the power flowing through her veins. The throne was closer now. All she had to do was survive this last test. But there was something else, something darker. From the shadows, a new figure emerged. It was the leader of the predators, the one who had claimed the throne earlier. He stepped into the clearing, his eyes cold and calculating. He was the strongest, the one who had defeated the scared predator. And now he was looking at Zora like she was nothing more than prey. Zora's breath caught in her throat. This was it, the final trial. She could feel the weight of the jungle around her. She had to fight him. She had to prove she was stronger. The leader raised his weapon, a massive spear, its tip glowing with an eerie light. Zara didn't hesitate. She charged forward, her weapon in hand, her mind focused. She wasn't going to let fear control her anymore. The leader swung his spear, aiming for Zora's head. She ducked just in time, feeling the air rush past her. She used the moment to close the distance between them, slamming the side of her weapon into his side. He staggered but quickly recovered, spinning to face her. They circled each other, each waiting for the other to make a mistake. The jungle was silent now, the battle between them the only sound. The leader lunged again, but this time Zora was ready. She ducked beneath the spear and came up behind him, delivering a powerful blow to his back. He roared in pain, but Zora didn't stop. She moved faster, using every ounce of energy in her body. With a final powerful strike, she slammed the weapon into his chest. The leader gasped, his eyes wide in shock, before he fell to his knees. Zora stood over him, panting, her weapon raised. The jungle seemed to hold its breath once more. The leader's eyes flickered with something like respect before he collapsed onto the ground, motionless. Zora didn't celebrate. She didn't smile. She simply stood there, her heart racing, her body bruised and battered. She had done it. She had fought her way to the top. The jungle was hers now. The scared predator walked toward her slowly, his eyes never leaving her face. He nodded once, a silent acknowledgement of her victory. He didn't speak, but Zara could see the respect in his eyes. The jungle had accepted her. She had proven she was worthy. The throne was no longer just a dream. It was hers. Zara turned and walked toward the stone platform. The remaining predators stepped aside, kneeling as she passed. She didn't look back. She didn't need to. The jungle had chosen its queen. Zara stood in front of the throne, her heart still racing from the battle. The jungle around her was eerily silent, as if the entire world was waiting for her to make the next move. Her fingers tightened around the weapon, now stained with the blood of those who had dared challenge her. The weight of what she had just accomplished was starting to sink in. She had taken down the predators, survived the trials, and claimed the throne. But now, the real test began. The scared predator approached her, his steps slow and measured. He looked at her with a mix of respect and caution. She could see it in his eyes, the acknowledgement that she had earned her place. But she wasn't done yet. She wasn't just going to sit on the throne and wait for the world to fall at her feet. She needed to prove that she could lead, that she could rule with strength and wisdom. "You did it," the scared predator said quietly. "You took the throne. But it is not enough to simply claim it. You must hold it." Zara nodded, her gaze steady. She had no illusions about what it meant to be in charge. The jungle was a dangerous place. The predators respected power, and she knew that if she faltered for even a moment, they would turn on her. "I know," Zara replied. "I'm not done yet." The scared predator studied her for a moment longer before stepping aside. He didn't speak again, but his actions said everything. He was giving her the space she needed to take control. Zara turned to face the other predators. They were watching her, their eyes filled with a mix of curiosity and wariness. They had seen her fight. They had seen her claim the throne. But now, they needed to see if she could lead them. "I didn't come here to be a figurehead," Zara said, her voice loud and strong. "I came here to lead, to change things. We don't have to live in fear of each other. We don't have to fight for every scrap of power. We are stronger together." The predators exchanged glances, their expressions unreadable. Zara could feel the weight of their scrutiny. They were waiting to see if she would follow through on her words. For a moment, everything was still. Then, one of the younger predators stepped forward. He was smaller than the others, but his eyes were sharp, full of determination. "You speak of unity," he said, his voice rough. "But how can we trust you? You've taken the throne by force. What makes you different from the others who have come before you?" Zara's gaze never wavered. She had expected this challenge. She had prepared for it. "I've earned this throne," she said, "not just by fighting, but by surviving. I've fought for my life, and now I will fight for all of you. We can be more than just hunters. We can be a force. We can create something new." The predator who had spoken before seemed to hesitate. He looked around at the others, as if seeking confirmation, but the others were silent. Zara could feel the tension in the air. She needed to show them that she wasn't just strong. She was different. "I will lead with honor," she continued, her voice unwavering. "And I will not let anyone tear us apart. We will fight together. We will stand together. And we will be unstoppable." The younger predator nodded slowly, his eyes still studying her. Then, after what seemed like an eternity, he stepped back. The others followed his lead, their gaze softening ever so slightly. Zara could see the change in their eyes. They were starting to understand. The jungle around them seemed to shift, the trees rustling in the wind as if agreeing with her words. Zara could feel the power of the land beneath her feet, the same power that had carried her through the trials. She wasn't just a survivor anymore. She was the queen of this jungle, and she was going to make sure they knew it. But there was still one thing left to do. The scared predator stepped forward again, his face shadowed with the weight of experience. He lowered his head slightly, showing a sign of respect. "You are ready," he said simply. "The jungle has chosen you. The predators have chosen you. You are the one who will lead us into a new era." Zara didn't speak. She didn't need to. She had already proven herself. She turned toward the throne, her eyes fixed on it. It wasn't just a seat. It was the symbol of everything she had fought for. She had taken it, but now it was hers to defend. The jungle was a place of survival, of constant danger. She had survived. She had claimed the throne. But now she had to prove that she could rule it. Her thoughts were interrupted by a loud roar from the jungle. Zara looked up sharply, her instincts kicking in. The roar echoed through the trees, sending a wave of tension rippling through the group. It was another predator, one she hadn't seen before. This one was larger than any of the others, its body covered in dark, jagged armor. It stepped into the clearing, its eyes glowing with a menacing light. Zara stepped forward, her weapon raised. She wasn't afraid. Not anymore. She had fought for this. And now, she would protect it. The predator growled, its eyes locking onto hers. It was a challenge. The final test. Zara's grip tightened around the weapon. She was ready. This fight was hers to win. She had taken the throne. And now, she would keep it. She had taken the throne. The massive predator stood in front of Zara, its eyes glowing with hunger and malice. Its dark, jagged armor reflected the faint light of the jungle, and its growl echoed through the clearing, shaking the very air around them. The predators behind Zara stepped back, their eyes wide with fear. They had never seen anything like this before. This predator was different. It was stronger, more dangerous than any they had faced. Zara's heart raced, but her hands were steady. She had fought so many battles to get here, and this one would be no different. She wasn't going to back down. She wasn't going to let fear control her. The predator snarled, taking a slow step forward. Its eyes never left hers. Zara took a deep breath, her mind racing. She needed to think. She needed to be faster, smarter. This predator was bigger, stronger, but she had something it didn't. Experience. She had survived the jungle. She had learned how to use the terrain, how to strike when her enemy was weakest. It lunged at her suddenly, its claws outstretched. Zara jumped to the side, rolling on the ground, narrowly avoiding its deadly strike. The predator growled in frustration, turning quickly to face her. Zara didn't wait for it to charge again. She sprang to her feet, her weapon raised. The predator lunged again, this time faster, but Zara was ready. She sidestepped, using the predator's momentum against it. With a swift strike, she jabbed her weapon into the side of its armor. The weapon crackled with energy, sending a shock through the predator. It howled in pain, stumbling back. But it wasn't enough. The predator's armor was tough, and Zara's strike had barely done any damage. It snarled, its glowing eyes filled with fury, and it lunged once more. Zara barely had time to react. She ducked just as the predator's claws swept over her head, leaving a trail of sparks in the air. She was faster this time. She rolled beneath the predator, sliding to its blind spot. Her weapon was already in her hand, and she struck again, aiming for the weak spot she had noticed earlier, beneath its arm, where the armor was thinner. The weapon sank deep, and the predator let out a deafening roar. For a moment, Zara thought it was over. But the predator wasn't done. It spun around, its massive tail whipping through the air. Zara barely had time to jump out of the way, landing hard on the ground. The jungle trembled with the force of the predator's strike. She couldn't keep up with its strength forever. She had to find a way to end this. Her eyes darted around the clearing, looking for anything she could use. There, the large stone platform, the same one she had stood on earlier. It was raised high above the ground, surrounded by trees and vines. The predator advanced, its steps heavy, determined to finish her off. Zara's mind raced. She had one chance. She ran toward the platform, the predator hot on her heels. It growled, eager for the kill. Zara leaped up onto the platform, using her legs to push off the stone and propel herself higher. The predator followed, its claws snapping at the air. Zara rolled as she reached the top, landing on her feet just in time. The predator roared in fury, its claws digging into the stone as it tried to climb after her. But Zara was already moving, her weapon ready. She lunged forward, her weapon aimed at the predator's exposed neck. The predator's eyes widened in shock just before the strike landed. Zara's weapon pierced its armor, and with a final desperate roar, the predator collapsed to the ground. Zara stood over it, panting, her heart racing. She had done it. She had defeated the last challenge. The jungle was finally quiet again. The only sound the soft rustling of the leaves in the breeze. The predators watching from the edge of the clearing slowly began to kneel, their eyes filled with awe and respect. Zara had proven herself. She had fought for the throne, and now she had earned it. She wasn't just a survivor anymore. She was the queen. The scared predator stepped forward, his eyes still filled with respect. He bowed his head to her, a sign of honor. Zara nodded in return, her gaze steady. She had taken the throne, but she wasn't done yet. This was just the beginning. The jungle had chosen her. The predators had chosen her. Now it was time to lead. Zara turned to the rest of the predators, her voice clear and strong. "This is just the start," she said. "We will no longer be divided. We will be a united force. Together, we will become something stronger than any of us could be alone." The predators looked at each other, their fear slowly turning into something else. Hope. Zara knew she had their loyalty now. But she also knew that power was fragile. It could slip away in an instant. She had taken the throne, but it was up to her to keep it. And she would.